Very nice. Oh, that's super loud. Okay, got it.
Sorry. I think
cool.
we are ready to go. So,
All right. So,
yeah, I'm
hey,
going to
what's
say
going
hello
on?
to everyone. Thank you for joining CTJS 2022 in London. Dwane actually is in London, so any one of you that will be visiting us in Regent Street Cinema, we still have a few tickets. If you are in London, get and come. The venue is amazing. We have a lot of space. We'll be able to meet really smart individuals like Dwane here.
Oh, well, I
And
don't know. We'll see after the workshop. We'll see how
yeah,
people feel.
coming all the way from United States, so you can meet him. Exactly. Dwane, whereabouts in the US?
I live in Orlando. Well, I live in a van, but I'm based out of Orlando, Florida.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, you couldn't get the van in the airplane, so you got.
Yeah, no, probably ship it next time. Just put in a big
Yeah, exactly.
shipping container.
That would be awesome, traveling around Europe with a van.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about driving on the other side of the road. I have to I have to work my way up to that, especially like in a van. I don't know about all that. Like, I don't know. We'll see.
Don't do it in the UK because the roads are opposite from everywhere else. So
Exactly. That's why I'm like, I don't know. I'm in a van. I don't know. No, maybe the bicycle. I'll start off in a bicycle. Maybe I'll start on a bicycle so I can get.
Yeah, but if you build your website with the web components, you will be able to drive your car in any road, even if it's right or left. It should work regardless, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the great thing about web components.
So let's give it a go. And thank you everyone for joining. I'm gonna be admitting people that will join us, and I'm gonna keep silent for the next 2 hours. Thank you.
All right, and then again, so for folks that may have just joined in, if you want to follow along and kind of like actually interact with the web components and help, actually create your own, I set up this site. You can see it on the screen. myworkshops.live, because again, I make random projects, and I figured I'm going to be giving a bunch of workshops, so why not have a place where my workshops live, right? And so it's also a place where you can watch my workshops live. And because English is a funny language, live and live are spelled the same. So works out in my favor. So what I'm doing is I just put in the website address again and the password to join. All right. So we're at the first one here. The web components are awesome. Workshop at CJS London 2022. I see it's live now, and there's the enter. So you hit enter to enter. Now, pay attention. Like, just notice the live now and the Thursday, February 17th, 2022. Those dates. Just remember those, because I'm going to refer to that later on. So I actually put into like what I actually work on. I actually use it. You know what I mean? So that's why I create them. All right. So you click that. Cool. Then you put in your username. Your username is whatever you want. And then the password is the password that I put into the chat there. All righty. All right. So I need to do a couple things on my end. All right. So if there is anything, so if you ever, because I know I live in the middle like nowhere in Orlando, Florida, and I know the internet is like video can be super heavy. So I just enabled audio on that website. So if I think I said like listen or enable audio or something, you'll be able to also listen. So it's not as much bandwidth being used. It's just be audio. So you can do that as well. And with that, I'm also doing speech to text recognition. So with the web speech recognition API. And so hopefully the words that I'm saying are being transcribed to text pretty accurately. So hopefully that's working. Also, you'll notice that there's a section to ask questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in there and then ask whatever questions. All right. And also there's the thumbs up button. So if I'm gonna ask questions, and if you're understanding, if you're having a good time, you give me a thumbs up. All right. So let's test out the thumbs up. Somebody give me a thumbs up. I want to make sure that's working. Oh, yes. Thank you, Abjit. Isabel G. Nice. And Amoham. Nice, nice. Thank you all very much for testing that out. Yeah, it's amazing when you make stuff and it works, right? I always find that I'm appreciative of that. Okay, so let's just get into it. Hopefully, everyone, that was enough blabbering on my end for y'all to be on the site. And so let's just get started. All right. So web components are awesome. Hopefully, you'll think so too. Now, all this is, as I understand it, as March 2022. Because if you've done anything with the web, you know that it changes all the time. And so there's always new things happening. And so I like to kind of like refresh myself. And every time I learn something new, I put it into these workshops. And doing these workshops really help because it keeps me going, like learning. And it gives me a chance to put it into practice and kind of, hopefully get better and hopefully be able to like explain it to other folks a little bit better. All right. So with that said, let's get started. Now, like I said, this is going to be like interactive. I don't know about super interactive, but I like interactivity in my workshops. So real quick, who has heard of web components? We got one vote already. Very nice. Very nice. All right. Okay, cool. Okay, we're getting a bunch of, okay. Now, everybody that's saying yes, I want you to like keep me accountable for what you understand so far and make sure I am saying the right, because again, these are just things that I learned along the way. So I want to make sure we all have the same understanding of things. We got one person with no. All right, cool. So you, the person who says no, you let me know at the end of this if you found web components to be awesome. All right, cool. All right, so now for the goals of this whole workshop, I want to be able to have everyone gain like a general understanding of web components. Don't have to be experts or anything, but kind of like when you look at some documentation, you're kind of familiar with it. Now you may not know everything, but you know like enough to be like, oh, you feel comfortable with learning more about it. And so that's one of my main goals. Show the value of web components. Me just saying they're awesome, I mean, and that's my interpretation. I think they're awesome. You may not. So I'm going to try and hopefully show some value, and around that value, you find it to be awesome and useful. All right, and then we're going to create and then integrate a web component. And like I said before, this is like new stuff that I'm kind of putting in here because I want it to be as like, as I said, I want interactive for everyone. So I want everybody to take part. And so the previous iteration of this workshop, there was some stuff to do like in the command line in the terminal. And I don't know how everybody has their stuff set up. So this way it's all through the browser. And so there's some, like I said, the web is always changing and getting better. So there's like some new like places you can go and create web components and get it published and all these things. So super cool stuff. All right. And then some of the resources. So just don't use me as, the sole source of web components. There's a lot of different places doing really good work, and I want to expose you to that also. And so that way you can kind of find your way along with things. But still, feel free to hit me up, if you ever, want to talk about web components. Always down to talk about web components. All right. So another question. Do you have a GitHub account? Just let me know yes or no. If not, you can sign up for one right there. So let me know. Because some of the new things, you'll be able to sign in with your GitHub. And so that way you'll have like your own like copy of everything as well. And you can kind of like tweak it and play around with it and everything, break it, fix it. And that's where learning happens. Okay. Oh, very nice. So, okay. Yeah, I figured because, you're here at a JavaScript developer conference, a workshop. You're taking your own time. By the way, thank you for taking your time out for this. And so I'm figuring you probably have some sort of run-in with GitHub. So that's why I have this now, because previously it was another account with a lot of people probably wouldn't have really if you never did web components. So this is good. All right. So it was a good idea to kind of go this route. All right. Very good. Thank you all. Now, let's get into some of this value proposition. So who's using web components? So you may have heard of a company called Google. They're actually so invested in web components that they actually have their own like library and framework that they use to create web components. And it's used all throughout Google. Salesforce has their own set of like web components. So when you're building like a Salesforce application, you're using web components. For them, it's just easier to handle like, all right, here's this component. This is what you do with it instead of having the developers have to start from scratch every time. So that way it doesn't help. It helps with like bugs and things because they created it, you're using it. You don't have to build anything. It's just the way it works, right? So yeah. EA, we'll talk about an actual like concrete example from EA. Twitter, also using web components. Like when you do the, I believe it's the, like when you embed the card, like on a site, that's like a web component, like a tweet or something on a site. YouTube has all throughout their stuff. Like if you look at the source code in out of a YouTube page, you'll see a lot of like YT hyphen whatever. And so they use it for all sorts of different components on their website. And then GitHub, they actually the relative time stuff, like the last time a PR was made or last time something was merged, like the 2 days ago, 2 seconds ago, that's a web component. And I don't remember if I actually showed the specific stuff. Oh, no, I didn't. Okay, so yeah, there's that. Now, let's take EA, for example. Oh, by the way, hey, are the slides changing for you automatically? Let me get a thumbs up, please, in the chat. I want to make sure that that's actually working for you too. Yes, awesome. Our last workshop, yeah, apparently I didn't test well enough, and it was not the greatest experience. But this is going so much better. Again, this is why we do things. We learn. All right. So I'm super happy that you're all able to get your slides updated. Now, talking about EA. EA is a very large game producer, game company. And so they have 22 studios with like probably over 10,000 people by now, because this YouTube video where I got this information from, which is, I try to like source and reference where I got the information from, so you can also check it out. Just don't take my word for things. You know what I mean? I'm just here to hopefully influence you to think that web components are awesome, but always do your own research and look into things. So yeah, so I have the link to the YouTube where I got this information from a person who was working at EA. And so they have like 30 locations worldwide, and they like publish games like NBA Live, Star Wars, The Sims, Battlefield, a whole bunch of different games. And so the thing was, when they were creating the different web assets, like the websites and the portals and all these things, with so many people creating all these different properties, the projects became kind of disjointed. Like you couldn't tell, like, oh, this game was kind of like a part of like this company. There was like no like similarity. So you'd go to like one page, and then one option would be over here, like the login would be over here on one side of the screen. But then when you go to another page, it's on another side. So there's like no continuity, right? And so they decided to create a design system. And so a design system is basically just a bunch of components that you are kind of in charge of, and then you let other people use and kind of like to be able to build with their own projects. So using your design system as like a foundation to be able to build something new and something cool. All righty. So have you ever used any of these elements, like the video elements, the audio elements, the details elements? And feel free to play around with them. They're actual like real things you can play around with. I'm not gonna do the audio stuff, but it was video, but yeah. Side note, how amazing is it that with just the details tag, that you can have all this going on? Like you get all this for free. Like this triangle moving, you get that for free. Like actual thing here. But how about even more amazing is like with the video tag or an audio tag, you have a fully functional media player. And you don't have to do anything with that. Like it's super helpful, right? Well, web components. They're just web components that happen to be built in to the web, but they're still like web components. And so that is why I think web components are pretty awesome. So now, this here is what totally blew my mind. So you can play around with the astronaut, like it's a 3D model of this astronaut. And what's even more amazing, they've updated this model to include Neil Armstrong's actual suit. So if you go to the website modelviewer.dev, you'll be able to check out the actual scan of an actual astronaut that's been on the moon suit, spacesuit. But I have this here because it's not as heavy. It's just like polygons and stuff. But imagine what it would take. I don't know if how many people have done anything like WebGL or 3JS or even A-frame or anything like that. Like, hopefully you like can like understand the complexity of what it takes just to make this, like even the shadows and things, right? And all you have to put in is like model dash viewer and with a link to the actual source, to the 3D model. And you have all this rotational stuff, like it rotating by itself. Amazing stuff. Now, I was inspired by all of this to create something that I thought was pretty cool. So, I totally forgot. By the way, I'm Dwane. How's everyone doing? I'm a JavaScript developer advocate at Vonage. And at Vonage, we build things to help people communicate on the internet. And I'm a big fan of communication because I think people will be able to really understand each other and know where everyone's coming from through communication. If you just communicate with somebody, I think you can find like some sort of common ground to where you can build on. And so working at Vonage is kind of amazing. So I get to build all sorts of like random projects. And as you can tell, I like to build random projects. So, with seeing the model viewer, I wanted to create something where I used some of the power of the model viewer. And so I created and combined it with some Vonage services. So I created a WebXR tic-tac-toe game with audio chat. And so you're able, if you go to that website, yet another project I made. I have a, some may call it a problem. I call it a learning opportunity. So xoxr.games, that will take you to a site I created where you can actually play. So don't do that now because we're learning here. You can play times later. But I have like a video demo of it so you can check it out. All right, so what's happening here is that right here is the same model viewer that you just saw before. Instead of an astronaut, it's a tic-tac-toe board. Then I have this same model viewer, but there's an augmented reality portion to it. So you can place your models in the real world and they stay there. And so what I did was I used our Vonage conversation API through the client SDK to be able to pass the game moves back and forth between the augmented reality one and the virtual reality one that's in the browser. And so as you can see there, it's playing back and forth. Now, also I added, you see here at the bottom, you can enable the audio. So the same way I have it here to where you can, if you wanted to hear me, you could, and you'll be able to have an audio conversation with the person you're playing tic-tac-toe with. And yeah, so that is pretty cool to me to be able to, the way where things are going as far as augmented reality and virtual reality, I think we're living in amazing times, and I just look forward to more of that. All right, so there's that. Cool. All right, so like I said, I like to make projects, like a lot of projects. And so kind of like with EA, I ran into an issue where I like to show what I built those sites out of, you know, like what frameworks or technologies I've used to build that random project. And so I was running into like having to recreate it over and over again. It became kind of like a chore. You know, I just like to build stuff. I don't want it to feel like a chore. I want to be able to build things I enjoy, right? So having to like, okay, how am I going to put this, make it look right, all these other things. Even in, like if I copied and pasted it, well, I need to get the data from somewhere. I need to do all this stuff, right? So it kind of became a pain. So what I did was I created an actual web component. And so it's a reusable one where it's Dwane-made. And so what it does, it looks just like this, you know, my little avatar here, and it has an about section, what I use to build the site with, any updates, and for more, you can check out more information. So what the web component does, it fetches data from an endpoint from that project. So I have like a set schema of how I want the data to be set. And so that way it's always uniform and consistent whenever the web component pulls it. And so I pull in the information, and then all of these things are populated from it. So that way I just put in that one component, have it fetch some data. That's it. I don't have to worry about like, oh, well, how do I want it to look or anything like that. So kind of like with EA, it gives me like a baseline to be able to kind of create what I want. So yeah. All right. Next. Now, one of the most powerful, in my humble opinion, is element is the input tag. Have you ever wondered like how awesome is it that by just setting the type, the attribute or a property, I think it's attribute, that you can, with a button, you have a button. You want a checkbox? Type checkbox. This one here, the color, like, do you know how much stuff you would have to probably do to be able to make this work to where you can just click it and it selects the color for you? You get all that with just setting that to color. And so it's kind of like the Swiss Army knife. So you can upload files, you can input text. We have the range, a radio button, and then you know how, like, I don't know if I've dealt with this, and I'll show you later. The dealing with time on the web is a thing. It's like a hard thing, at least for me. It's a thing. It's an involved thing. And so with this, you get this out the box, all by just setting the type. Again, I think that's pretty awesome. So multi-use. So again, working up with time on the web for me has been another chore. And so I was like, I don't want to keep doing this over and over again. So let me just create a web component out of it. Let me do all the work, make it a web component that can be used pretty much anywhere, right? And so I created a Dwane timer. And so remember how on the page on the myworkshops.live, we had the little the date there. Well, that's the Dwane timer. The Dwane timer can also take in another property to set when you want a countdown timer to start. And so that's what these are. Same web components, just with a different attribute, it changes its function. And then also here, this is kind of like how it looks as well laid out. I have a thing where it can do vertical or horizontal, depending on how I want it to be laid out. And then I also created this other website to find Twitter spaces. And then each one of these, like little things, is a Dwane timer. And once I have a thing, like there's an event, when it reaches 0, it sends an event. We'll talk about all this later. And that to let the application know, oh, this timer has finished. And then you can decide what you want to do with that. And so for this site and for another site, the site to find Twitter spaces, I have it say live now. So that way it's just not like zeros. It's something a little bit more understandable. Like, oh, this thing is live now. All righty, cool. By the way, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know there and it'll pop up and I can check it out. All right. So hopefully, let me get some thumbs up. How's everybody doing so far? Everybody's good? Let me get some thumbs up. Want to make sure y'all are there still. All right, cool. All righty, next. So we spoke about before, don't let just be the only place where you learn about web components. There's so much more to this world of web components. And so I have a couple of places that you can check out. Someone in the Zoom chat actually linked to MDN's, Mozilla Developer Network's like section on web components. That's another good place. They have like a GitHub of a bunch of different examples that you can play around with as well. And then webcomponents.org is just a good source to kind of get information on web components as well. So yeah, there's that. Cool. You know what? I might as well take a look at them. I think we have time. So yeah, so if you go to them, for the people who aren't like watching, so you can see there's a bunch of stuff here, examples that you can kind of just play around with. Okay, that's that one. And then webcomponents.org, like I said, is a pretty good resource just to kind of like get like a basis on web components, kind of what's happening. So they have different elements. That's right. You can also list your elements on the website as well. And so they have different collections, and then they have like polyfills. But for most major browsers, you don't even really need polyfills anymore. So let's see. Oh, and then yeah, as far as browser support, so they kind of keep a list, and so everything, as you can see, all like newer browsers handle it. And yeah, so it's a nice website. Okay. All right, next. So now, our web component is getting cooler for y'all. Let me know. What do you think? How are web components hanging out for you? Is it good? Very nice, very nice, very nice. All right, next. So let's talk. So we talked about who's using web components, how they're using them, gave a couple of my own personal examples. So let's talk about what encapsulates, what makes up web component. So there's like three main parts. Now there's a fourth one, but then ES modules, kind of like, since that's becoming more and more of a thing on the web, you really don't have to worry too much about it anymore. So it does a pretty good job. So that's something else kind of taken out. There's like imports and stuff, but you don't have to worry about that anymore. But custom elements, the shadow DOM, and HTML templates. All right, next. So custom elements. Custom elements, a few things. Custom elements are like the naming. So like how I had Dwane-timer or Dwane-made, right? You get to name your own web component. How awesome is that? You can create your own element that the browser can understand with some JavaScript and be able to pass that with anybody and the browser just understand. You can give it to somebody and they'll be able to use it as well. And so, but the thing, like a caveat, is that it must include a hyphen or a dash. I'm not sure what you call it. It's also known as kebab case. And so that also no single words. So we don't want to have people, having their own input tag or H1 tag or A or anything like that, right? So it must include at least 2 words, not even words. They could be whatever, but just 2. It has to have a hyphen. And so along with the custom elements, there's like a class object that kind of defines the behavior, and we'll take a look at that. And so you're creating like a class so that the browser can understand what it can do, what it's capable of doing. And so that's kind of in the custom elements API, kind of explains all that. And then what's cool is that class component can extend. So if you wanted to have if you didn't want to build it from scratch, let's say you wanted to make your own awesome button, my-awesome-button, right? You can extend your class, your new my awesome button. You can extend the HTML element button, and so you get all the goodness from the button element, and then add on top of that. But for a lot of times, you just see like a generic HTML element, and we'll see that in the code. But if you ever wanted to start off with like a foundation, you can. All right, let's see. Shadow DOM. Now the shadow DOM provides like the encapsulation, because the thing is, you don't want things leaking out of your web component unless you wanted to, or leaking in unless you wanted to. And so the shadow DOM, it kind of like helps with the check on all those things. So you have your web component and you can encapsulate everything from the outer light DOM, right? And so Paul Lewis, I have a link to the video, actually called like the shadow DOM. It's a place where you can contain the gross. You know what I mean? So like all the code and all the logic and everything that you have for your web component, the outer application doesn't need to know about it because it's all just kind of like encapsulated. And so we'll talk about that. Another cool thing about the shadow DOM is that it can remap events. So like, for example, when my Dwane-timer countdown reached 0, it sent off an event so that it sent off a, what was it? Countdown ended or something like that. And so that way, instead of just like a click event or whatever, or a set timeout or whatever, like my outer application can understand like, oh, a countdown timer ended or what have you. So it's a little bit, it gives you like something more meaningful and with context that your application can understand. Because listening for a click, like, well, which one clicked? What you know what I mean? And so this way you can kind of like turn it into something that the outer application can understand a little bit better. All right. Now, HTML templates. I don't know if you ever played with like the template tag, super cool. And so the template element, like the stuff inside of it, like is not rendered by the browser. The browser just ignores it basically. So you can have whatever you want in there and it doesn't like affect it, like the like loading times. It just like, oh, okay, this is a template thing. I'm assuming you will let me know what to do with this later. And so we can use that to efficiently render HTML. So your web component can use the template and then do stuff to it and then render it so that the browser can render it. And then you can update it as well and things. So it's pretty cool. It's I don't know how many folks are familiar with it, but it's pretty cool. So yeah, so like I said, it's used to efficiently render HTML and update it when the user interacts with our web component. Oh, and then you may find that I would suggest cloning, a template and then attaching it to the DOM through the node and all these things, just so you can kind of get a feel. And we'll take a look at an example, but sometimes your template may come super complex, a lot of moving parts and things. So there's different frameworks and libraries that kind of like help abstract that out. So kind of like how like React, Angular, Vue kind of like abstract a lot of the minutia of like in boilerplate and all type of stuff. We also have that over in the web components world. So we'll look at that as well. All right, so here's an example, like just a basic HTML web component. And here we go. So we'll kind of walk through it. So like I have here in the comments. So I try to comment as much as possible to hopefully help like with understanding what's going on. So this right here is just like the regular light DOM stuff. You're getting references to different parts of the site, right? So so we have this group submit. Oh, I should probably say this whole web component is kind of like deciding, like you enter in a name of a group and it will let you know whether or not it's the greatest group of all time. Of course, that's all biased to my own thing, but I created it, so it's going to make that work. So let's take a look at the HTML, what was needed for that. So you can see here, we have the title, GOAT group. We don't have any styles because we don't really need it. And then, so H1, now check this out. H1 tag, who's the greatest group of all time, right? That's right here. Notice that is green because right here in the CSS, I set the color for the H1 to be green. All right, check that out. Cool, it's green. Then we have the input ID for this. This is the ID of group -sub -input. That's what this is. Then we have the group -sub -button, which is this. And then we have our web component, which is like the little thinking face. Now, the web component is called GOAT-group. GOAT for greatest of all time group. Now, you notice there's an attribute on there that says guess. We set that to nothing because you haven't guessed yet. And then I have this like little emoji to show that you can pass in things from the light DOM and have it show up in the shadow DOM of your web component. So they're called slots. I don't remember if I talk about it, but you can look that up. Slots is pretty cool as well. I don't think I dived that deep into it in this workshop, but yeah, so just want to show that. All right. So those are the main elements. So we have the input, the button, and the web component. All right, in the JavaScript, we get a reference to those things. And if you notice, the same way that we do the query selector for the input button, for the input and the button, because web components are just to the browser like HTML elements, we can do the same thing. So we just have the GOAT group right there, which is, I think, is super cool. You don't have to do anything special to get a reference to it. And then, so we have an event listener, click on the button, and that's going to have the input value that you put in. Let's see, what else? Oh, yeah, and then also, move this over. The formatting is kind of weird. Can I move this? No, I cannot. All right, but then, yeah, so also, we set the attribute of the GOAT group, the web component. Remember that we have that guess, that attribute. And so again, it's just like a regular HTML element. So you can use set attribute to set it to the input value. And then we're clearing the input value there. That's what's happening there. All right. So I have this event listener. We'll get to that later, but see, we're listening for guests. So the outer application is going to listen for an event called guest that's coming from the web component, because that's what happened when it guessed, right? So it provides a little bit more context. All right, and then so now here is the template stuff. So we're actually going to create a template through JavaScript, and then we're going to set the inner HTML to be the slot that we spoke about before. That's where the little thinky face happens. And then we have a H1, which is not showing up yet. And then we also have the verdict, which says whether or not you guessed the greatest group of all time. All right, cool. So now, remember how I said that if you wanted to have like your own starting point for like a button or whatever, your class would be able to extend from that. So we're just going to, we have like just regular random elements. So we're going to start off from the HTML elements. Okay. And so goat group extends the HTML element, and it's the class. The same thing with the custom elements that API we spoke about before. This plays in a part of that. All right. So now, which attributes do we want to listen for, right? And like we said, it's the guess. So we have the static function where we're going to get observed attributes. Now, all this is within web components. So these are all like web component API stuff, right? And so we're going to return guess. So that is the attribute. So it's an array. So if you had multiple ones, you could put in a bunch of things there in the array. All right. Now we have a constructor, because you know classes, if you've done like any React, you gotta have like a constructor, right? And so super gives you all the HTML element base goodness that you can use for like methods and properties and stuff like that. Then we're going to clone the template. So we're telling the browser through JavaScript, like, hey, there's this thing, this template we told you not to worry about before. Well, we're going to start using something with it. So we're going to clone it, right? Yeah. So document import node template content true. All right. And so we're using the shadow DOM. So we're going to attach the shadow DOM. And so you have this mode, and it's either open or closed. And so do you want like the outer application to be able to interact with your web component through JavaScript? And so open for yes, close for no. And so then what we're doing is we're going to append that template that we cloned before. We're going to append that to the shadow root, which we are like attaching here. All right. So again, this was like the shadow DOM stuff. And now we're going to have this event listener. So we're going to listen for a click on the web component, and then we're going to turn the color red. All right. So remember, so right now this is green, and then we'll see what happens because we're changing something to red. All right. All right. So now there's life cycles. Like with if you've used like any like JavaScript frameworks, you may be familiar with life cycles. And so web components have life cycles. So anytime that your web component is like invoked, like placed on the web page, the connected callback is launched, is activated. And so if you have a bunch of them, like if I had a bunch of goat groups, they would all fire off the connected callback. So that just kind of says like, oh, we're connected and everything. And you notice this other one, the style color is blue. So we have green, red, and blue. All right, we'll see how that works when we actually play around with it. Now, when the attribute, in our case, guess, has changed, there's the attributes change callback that's fired that you can listen for. And it takes in the new value, the old, it takes in the name. So like guess, the old value, what it was previously, and the new value. So I have a console log here saying, hey, the attribute changed, which attribute, is, in our case, is guess, and then the new value. And then you can, right here, I'm checking for like any like spaces, or like, I'm checking to see if it's, like empty or what have you. And so I'm taking off like any like extra spaces or anything like that. That's what I'm doing here. So I'm trimming off any stuff in before and afterwards. Cool. Oh yeah. So then here, same way. Remember, you get a reference to your web component. Same thing. The verdict was in our template earlier. See right here. So I ID'd it as verdict. And so in our shadow root, in our shadow DOM, you can get the reference to it by doing that. and I'm setting the inner text to nothing, right? The verdict. It's kind of like refreshing it, basically. Every time you do a new guess, it removes the verdict, basically. And then I'm checking the value. And if it's, well, I kind of gave it away. If it's that name of that group, then you'll get it right. If not, it'll be wrong. Again, my personal preference. But then, so then I have this thing where it says like I'm setting the query selector H1. Again, that's in our template right here, our H1 tag. I'm setting the inner text to what the person guessed. And if it feels right, I dispatch an event, which is a new custom event, and I call it guest. And then and I just details yep, and it bubbles true. So it bubbles up through the component. And then composed, it allows it to cross into the light DOM, which is the outer application. So you can kind of decide whether or not you want it to pass into there. And we do, because that's where you can say like, oh, hey, this thing happened. You know, you want to be able to notify but maybe sometimes you don't, depending on your use case. So, but there's that option, whether or not you want it to be composed. All right, cool. So if you did say it's a yep, otherwise it'll still place your value there. And it'll just say like the verdict and it's like, hey, I guess they're okay. And then it dispatches another event. And this time it's nope. The same guest event, but you can pass in details. That's going to help your outer application understand more of what's happening with the web component. And then we have the same composed. Cool. All right. Then also, when your component is removed from the DOM, you have a disconnected callback, and that helps with like memory leaks and things. So you don't want to have a bunch of stuff. You know, it's kind of like always running, and you know, it can cause memory leaks. And then this is where everything kind of comes together. So again, with the custom elements API, we define the name that we want for the elements and what's the class that we're going to use to help the browser understand what this thing does. When it comes across goat-group, it's like, oh, okay, it's a class goat group that extends the HTML element, and these are like different methods and things that can be used with it. All right. So now, okay, I don't have so give me in the questions section, give me a name of a group. Oh, by the way, is all this kind of like am I doing a pretty okay job on like explaining this? Is everybody cool? Let me get a thumbs up, and then let me get a name of a group in questions. Blind Guardian. All right, that's a new one. I've never heard of that one. All right, so Blind Guardian. Blind Guardian. All right, now, are they the greatest group of all time? Nope. Well, my web component said nope, sorry. And so they're okay, I guess. Now, notice it came up blue, right? Remember, blue came up from right here, the connected callback. So we set that color to be blue there. But remember, we also have an event listener for click. And so when we click it, turns red. Also notice that Blind Guardian is an H1 tag from our template right here. Remember, we said the inner text for that. But look, that's an H1 tag. This is also an H1 tag. So when we clicked to turn it to red, notice how this still stayed green, because we didn't want we wanted to contain the gross. Again, remember? So we don't want it to leak out into the outer application and changing things. So that kind of gives you that, unless you wanted to, and you could do that if you want to, but just wanted to kind of show that you can have everything contained within your web component. So you don't have to worry about the outer application changing and doing funny things. All right, cool. So of course, like I said before, Outcast. Bam, so yep. And remember, this is coming from the custom event that we dispatched out to the outer application, and it's our outer application that's causing the little pop-up to show up. That's nowhere in our actual web component. So the outer application saw that the guest event happening. Like, oh, I know what to do with this, and shows the pop-up. And I think I went over that. Let me see. Yeah, so the alert right here, that's where that's coming from. And that's in the outer application, not in our web component. All righty, cool. So now let's kind of like recap what's happening. So your custom element in the last example was goat-group is here, right? Now we have different properties and attributes that we put in. So for the last example is guess. We have some custom events that come out. Oh, by the way, this whole white section out here, that is your the user's application, the light DOM. That's your web component is sitting in, the application. And so the custom events like we had was guest, that comes out of the web component, and so that the application can listen for it and do whatever it needs to do with it. And then we have different methods that we can call on the outer application can call on your web component to get stuff done. And we'll see more of that a little bit later. So again, properties and attributes in, methods can be called on your application, and then custom events coming out of your application. All right, so we'll see that again. Now, are our web components still cool? Let me know, yes or no. All right, yes, thank you, awesome, yes, nice, 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 very nice, okay, all right. Thank y'all once again. Oh, okay, 4, okay, very nice. All right, so going on. Let's talk about some tooling, right? Because you saw that before, that it can kind of get to be a lot of boilerplate stuff, right? And so it can kind of get like in the minutia and stuff. So there's some certain tools that you can use to help build web components. So a place I like to go to try out like the different frameworks and libraries is a webcomponents.dev. And let's take, this is actually like embedded in there. Again, that's why I like doing these things so people can play around with. Like you could go ahead and look at the website. Now, you may have seen it, but these are some of the ways that you can use to create web components, or at least components that can be used within their respective frameworks. And so we have a bunch of stuff here. I think this is from Microsoft, if I remember correctly. Lit, we mentioned earlier before, that's from Google. Haunted is pretty cool. This one, LWC, I want to say is it Salesforce? Or I think it might be Salesforce. I think that's their web components. Let's see. And Stencil, I've used Stencil before, big fan. And then, but so as of like this workshop, there are about like 64 different ways to create web components. And what's cool is that with that, you can hopefully find something that makes sense to you and will keep you building web components because it makes sense. You don't want to always have to like rack your brain, you know what I mean, to create a web component, because then it becomes like a chore. You know, it's not really helpful for you. And I believe web components can be super helpful for folks. And so finding a framework or a template that makes sense to you, I think will help along with that and get you building quickly. And so, yeah, so you can take a look at all of them. There's a bunch of them. And so there's all these different kinds. For folks that like Tailwind, there's a web component for you. There's one I recently heard of. It was called Corset, I think it was. And for people who like CSS, it's structured to be kind of like CSS. So if that makes sense, if like the CSS structure makes sense to you, that could be a place that you may like. I've never heard of Wafer. Okay, that's a new one for me. And so yeah, so you can see we have like stuff typed in TypeScript, in JavaScript. So pretty much like any flavor that you want. So anything that you like, you should be able to find something. You could probably find something. If not, you can create your own, right? All right. So again, that's webcomponents.dev. Now, what's cool with webcomponents.dev, like I said, is that you can play around with the different things. So it'll give you like a basic example using it. And from what I've seen so far, like a counter is like the hello world base test for like a web components. And so because like the value in the middle changes, so that has to be updated, right? So that's one way of testing it. Clicking these buttons has to set off some sort of functions. And so that's another way to kind of see how each framework library handles those situations. And so this one here, this one is, I totally forget. Oh, this is just a plain JS one. So similar to what we've seen before. So you can see here, creating a template, again, like we saw before, create element template. We're setting the inner HTML with these things here. We have the button that we have here. We're IDing it as DEC for decrementing it. We have the count, which is the value, and we have the incrementing button. All right. And then this may look familiar again. We have the my counter extends. It's a class that extends HTML elements. And so again, you have the constructor, the super to get all the goodness. And then we're setting the initial value of count to be 0. And then again, we're attaching the shadow DOM. And see, notice it says open because we want the outer application to be able to interact with it through JavaScript. Then again, we have the connected callback. Then we have the functions, increment, decrement, update. That actually updates the value there. And then the custom elements API, again, defining the my-counter with the class that we just created so that the browser understands what's happening. All right. And then you can just kind of see here in the index.html, we have the my-counter. All righty, cool. So yeah, very nice. Oh, and then I also have a link to the project if you want to check it out for yourself. All right, now, let's say with all that choice and you're working on a team, well, what do you use? This person may want to use this person may want to use that. It could be quite cumbersome, right? You can even maybe end up with what EA was ending up with. So for like a team, you may want to have just like set rules, like, hey, we're using this. This is what we're going to use. All right. And so open web components helps with that. And so it does a lot of things, but it also, I'm going to check out. So this is also the website here, but let me open it in a new tab here. So what it does is, like it says, it provides guides, tools, and libraries for developing web components. So they've come up with their own way that they want to be able to create web components. And they're making it easier for other people to create web components in that same exact way, right? So there's uniformity and consistency across all the different web components that are used to build with it. And so it's pretty cool. Like when I want to scaffold a new web component, I'll probably just use open web components, and it uses lit. So somebody that was talking about lit before, we can you use lit through open web components. Now we got a question. Yes, we got a question. Good. And those web components will only work in the framework you did them, or you can paste them anywhere, say WordPress. Anywhere that you could put like an H1 tag, you could put a web component. Only thing, like a caveat, is that by putting in like my-awesome-component, the browser doesn't understand what that is. So probably just ignore it, or maybe throw like an error like, hey, what is this? So you attach some JavaScript along with it so that the browser like, oh, I know what this thing is. This is just the class from this JavaScript that's telling me through the customs elements API. I know what to do with this now. I know how to render this. And so, yeah, you can use them in WordPress. You can use them. So what's cool with web components, and we'll show it later, you can use it in like pretty much any framework. There's some that may need more work, or without one, because they're just elements. And so depending on how the framework plays with like custom elements and web components, some work may need to be done, but we'll look at that soon. So yeah, so hopefully that answers your question, Isabel. But yes, WordPress, you can use it because you can run JavaScript in WordPress. And so, yes. All right, cool. Oh yeah, so we're talking about this. So it has like these like generators and things. So it has a CLI to where you just create a web component, and it will step by step everything that you need. So like, do you want to use TypeScript or just vanilla JavaScript? What's the name of your element? Do you want to include testing, linting, all these things? And then you set that up and it will scaffold everything you need to have your web component built. And again, like I said, they use lit. And so if you want to have like a consistent set of web components, then across your like organization, across your team, then open web components may be the thing for you. All right, how am I doing on time? Okay, cool. Got like an hour left. All right, so again, shouts to all the supporters and everybody. But yeah, and then so they have like guides to kind of help you through all that. They even help you publishing. We'll talk about that later. Your web component, and they have examples, different code labs, all type of stuff. Getting started, how they're using lit elements, all that stuff. It's pretty cool. And then there's documentation and stuff. And they also talk about like testing and all that. So testing is important. If you want to demo it, they use Storybook and all sorts of things. So linting the accessibility stuff. So very cool, very nice. All right. So that is open web components. All right. Now, you created your web components, right? It would be nice if other people could use your web component, right? Not everyone can like go to your GitHub, pull down your project and then compile it and then use it in their project. So that's where npmjs.com comes in. That is whenever you run like npm install, it's pulling the that data from the published web component or whatever thing that you're installing. So you publish your project to npm, so that way other people can use it. Now it's different from like publishing your code, because your code doesn't necessarily run. Like you have to kind of like build your web component so that other people can just run it. You know what I mean? And so depending on what you're using, you may need to do some building or what have you. But once you publish it, it's understood that a person can install it and just get it running. They don't have to do anything to make it run. So that's why you have the npm for it. All right. So GitHub is where you store the code. npm is where you publish your web component, kind of thing. All right, or whatever else you're working on. But in this context, your web component. All right, now let's say you're in a like a sandbox where you can't do npm install. Well, how can somebody run your web component? Well, pretty much for any like JavaScript library function, there's content delivery networks or CDNs. And these folks, and there's probably more, but this is just some that I put here. They will host your published project so that other people can link to it without having to install it and still be able to use your web component or library or whatever it is that you have published. So these are just a few of them there. All right, so now, did a lot of talking and theorizing. Let's build something. All right. So what we're going to build is a Keypad component. Because again, I work at Vonage, and so being able to have a Keypad component you can just put into an application. Let's say you want to dial a phone number, or you want to enter in a security code, or you want to like a quiz or something, answers, be able to answer stuff, playing a game, like a little dial thing or something, like a little controller or what have you. So you can see that a keypad could be quite useful. And so I created a Vonage component keypad. And so we're going to do that here as well. And so I scaffolded it using OpenWC because, again, we have a larger advantage like web components. And so I built this to kind of be a part of that because I thought it would be useful. And so it's built using, so it's scaffolded because the greater team used OpenWC to, again, keep everything uniform. And so, yeah, so I use OpenWC, and then OpenWC is using lit element for the functionality. So that kind of came with it. And then you can play around with it. So we have you can enter in numbers. It shows up in this display. You can hit enter. I don't have anything here, but it will you can have it set up to a launch a create action. That's a method on there. The properties and attributes. So we have the placeholder. So you can set what shows up when there's nothing in the display. The keys here, you can set those. The action text, which is this button, the text that's on there, that's when it first loads, that's the action text. When you click it, you can have a cancel text. We'll see that also. And then if you don't want the asterisk, you can say no asterisk, and it's a Boolean, so it will like not show that. And same thing with the hash key. And then if you don't want to display, you can get rid of it with no hyphen display. All right. And so in the custom events, things that are coming out of the VC keypad are digit added. So anytime I click this, there's a digit added event. Digit sent, that is when all of it, whenever this is clicked, that is sent. So your outer application, like, oh, these are the things that were sent. What can I do with them? And then action ended when you hit like the cancel text. So when that's stopped. So those are different custom events that pop up. So again, to kind of put everything, so the VC keypad has the properties and attributes that go into it, has custom events that come out of it so that the user's application, the outer application, can know what just happened with the actual web component. And, and then and kind of handle that in the application if need be. And then we have the different methods that can be called from the outer application on our web component. All right, cool. Let me get some thumbs up if we're if everything's kind of like making sense. How am I doing? We good? All right, I'm getting some, yes, nice, cool, very nice. Thank you all. All right, next. So, like I said, we used some references here. So the open web components, which you saw before, and lit. This is a new one. So lit helps build simple, fast web components. And you can read more about it. It's pretty cool stuff. They're doing some server-side rendering stuff because, like I said before, you kind of need like JavaScript for the browser to kind of understand, but through like server-side rendering, they're doing this stuff. Like I fully don't understand it, but maybe in a future workshop, once I get more information, or anybody in the audience may know about it. And so somehow they're able to like render the web component. I don't know if it's just presentational stuff, like if it's just like a button or something, or maybe like some text or something. They're rendering it on the server and then just sending that down to the browser. So the browser doesn't have to do anything with it. It's just there already. So I don't know, pretty cool stuff. All right, cool. So that is lit. Next. All right, so now let's take a look at the code of the web component. So now it may help if you have a GitHub account. So that way you're able to kind of like play around with the code yourself. Because I think if you try to change something, it's not going to let you. So I have a link to the project because it's kind of like difficult, sort of, if you're not like already signed in to be able to sign in. So I have a link to the project. So if you want to go ahead and like open it up and then sign in with your GitHub or what have you, but you can check it out. So here is our web component again, right? And so this is what we kind of saw before, because this is webcomponents.dev. All right. And so what's cool about webcomponents.dev, not only can you create your web component there, they'll also let you publish it to NPM. And if you don't have like an NPM like user account, they will actually store it under their user account. And so you can kind of see that here. So at WCD, that's webcomponent.dev there. And then slash, then my web component name here. So using my username and the name of the web component. And then you can actually just publish it right there. And you know what, let me, I'll publish it. Let's see what happens. Oh, that's actually opening up. So, okay, my bad. That actually opened up to NPM where the package is. So you can kind of check it out here. And so, wow, there's like 61 uses. Okay, awesome. Yeah, and so this is NPM if you're not familiar, and it kind of shows like what your web component is about. And you can do all this in the package.json. Like you can set certain things, and you can set like a README, just like in GitHub. You can set a README, and it'll show all that stuff there. So number of files, any dependencies. I think it's just lit yet, but there's no dependence. Nobody's using it, and there's like the versioning of it. And Explorer, I think you can actually like look at it. Okay, that's something that's exclusive to Teams. Okay, then never mind. But yeah, so gives you a kind of like a general overview of what your web component can do. And then somebody can make an informed decision whether or not they want to install it. Oh, and then also, this is important. So the @WCD, let's say for some random reason that there's another conscious.vc hyphen keypad hyphen fork hyphen whatever. So let's say that this VC keypad fork thing was like another web component that somebody created. By having this being under the @WCD, you can kind of ensure that you're getting the web component that you want, right? So it kind of helps delineate like, oh, okay, yeah, no, this is the one I want because it's under this username, pretty much. So that's that. All right. I wonder if this will let me see here. Oh yeah, so I can do a release on here. So I don't think I changed anything, so it's probably gonna give me an error. Let me change something. So you see all the different files here. Let me close that down. All right. Okay, so let's go through the code real quick. So we're importing the HTML, CSS, and lit element from lit elements. All right, just kind of like regular JavaScript stuff. So HTML is like the thing used to render the HTML. The CSS is for the CSS, and lit element is kind of like that base level. How was HTML element before? Now we're extending lit element, which has some like extra goodness in it. And so, like you see here, we're getting the styles. We're returning that CSS stuff here. So that CSS here is the same CSS that's here. And now you notice they're using the template literal. Well, when you put a function in front of it, it's called a tag template literal. Won't really have time to go into that now, but with that, you put all this goodness into it, and it understands how to like what to re-render, what not to re-render, sort of things, like what's static, what's not. Because you notice we have some variables here and stuff. So yeah, so that's that. Again, with the properties, remember we had the observe properties callback, I think it was. So yes, we have that here. So these are all the different properties. Remember the no asterisk, the no hashtag, the no display. We have the action text, the cancel text, the action started. Then that's whether it started or not. The digits themselves, the current position of like the cursor in the position, the keys, like the actual numbers on there, and then the placeholder text, like we said before. I think I have something set here. Oh, no, I don't. Okay, that's right. This is just the regular one. So there's that. Then we have the constructor, once again, because it's a class. We have the super, so we can get all the goodness from lit elements. And then I'm setting like initial values, just in case if they're not set by the person using the web component. So at least they have something in them. All right, cool. And then here's some, here's some like different methods that you can call on there. But I denoted, like, I don't want this to be like a thing that the outer application can call. So I have like dash dash there. I think there's a new thing happening where like you can explicitly make it so that it doesn't work. Because right now this is just like a suggestion, like, hey, please don't call this add digit kind of thing, right? And so you put in the digit and it adds a digit to here. And then see it dispatched an event, digit added. Let's see, which I set up here. It's a custom event, digit hyphen added. That is what the outer application is going to see. And it gives me the digit and the position of that digit there. And then bubbles true and compose true. We spoke about that before. And then I increase the current position by one because there's now a thing in that position, a digit there. So I need to move the cursor over. Display blur. Now, if you come off of the like from the input, like that's like a blur thing that is launched. All right, so then that's the digit sent. Cool. Do the create action that just sets the action to be started to let you know that there's something happening. Then there's the end action. Then there's the cancel action. The send the digits, everything that was already typed into here into the display can be sent off. And then here we're the render. We're returning that same HTML function that we called from lit elements. And again, that's going to determine like what should change, what shouldn't change, and what to do with it and how to update it. All right, cool. Then we have some button stuff here, more things. And then here we're defining, like you've seen before previously, the name of our component with the actual class that was created that helps the browser understand what to do, what can go into it, what it can do, what to listen for. All righty. Cool. And then you can link to the project. All right. So now we have our web components. And so, wait, did I? Oh, I didn't. So let's release something. So I guess let me change something. So on your end, if you're logged in, you'll also be able to, because I think you have to fork it or duplicate. It might say duplicate, so that you'll have your own instance. So you can do that. So if you did that, so let me change something. I think for every iteration, you have to have changed something. So let me close this back. Let me change. What do I want to change? I think let's change the color of the digits, which is right here. So let's make him, I don't know, gray. So let's try, what's a good EEE. Save that. Okay, that's not good enough. Okay, hold on. Let's go to 0. See what happens here. All right, so now you see that's changed. Light green. Can I just type in light green? Thanks for the suggestion. Light. Is there a hyphen in that? Let's see. Nope. Okay, let's. Oh, you know what? I think it's one word. Nope. Okay. Just go with green. Nope. Huh. What? Does it have to be an RGB value? That doesn't make any sense. Oh, wait. No. Try red. Oh, maybe it needs to be an RGB value. Okay. Well, red is FF0000. Okay, so hashtag FF0000. You asked for green, so let me get you green. RGB. There we go. That's kind of light. All right, so we got that. Cool. So now let me publish this. Publish this one here. So there's a little box, and then we're going to release it. And so it's going to go there. It's going to be patch release 3. And we have some different configurations and stuff. You don't have to really worry about that unless you want to dive more into it. But for right now, you don't really have to do that. And then we're going to release it. So it's releasing. Hopefully it all goes well. All right, so it was successful. Good job. Now, if we go back to the thing here, we should see. Oh wait, that says version 2. Yeah. Go to the actual main page. Should say 3. If my browser, here we go. Okay, maybe not. It might take a second. You see here. Come on, load. Nope, still says 2. Okay, well, we'll give that a second. At some point, that will say 3 there. All right, so we'll come back to that. You can see it's right there. So if I click this, so this is going directly to V3 or 0.0.3. And yeah, so you can see it's right there. So it is there. So it's been pushed up there. All right, and it's just a few seconds ago. All righty, cool. So we have that now, right? So we have this web component that we just published. Now, did anybody else do that along? Let me know. Let me get a thumbs up if you also just published your web component. If you're following along that closely. If anything, I'll stay on the site a little bit longer if you want more time. Now, this was what the step that previously I was doing like through the console. So hopefully this is a little bit like more straightforward to kind of follow. because this is pretty cool that through webcomponents.dev, you can actually publish a web component. Now, publishing it, you could, if you wanted to, let me see, it's here. You could, when you release it, let's say you want to have your own npm thing, you can actually send it here. So you see, I have one for my Twitter handle, lifelong dev, so I can publish it under my own account if I want. All right, but I'm just going to roll with WCD just in case you don't have one already. All righty. Cool. I'm gonna kind of move on then. All righty. So that's the code. Now let's actually use it. All right. We just created this web component. So now what you can do is, if you, well, you can have the one I use, but this is the reference here. So I'm just going to copy that and then paste that. Oh, by the way, this here, this is kind of like the polyfills that we spoke about before. So the unpackage, notice it's coming from a CDN, so we don't have to install that. And it's like some different polyfills if the browser needs it. But like I said, a lot of browsers don't even need it anymore. All right, so where it says star, 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 replace here, I'm going to replace the reference that we just copied right there. All right, so what that's doing is getting a package from unpackage.com under WCD, and then it has the conscious VC keypad, the latest. It came up white because it's not, what's cool is, so that's the latest there, right? But I can force it to be the value that I want. So let's do 0.0.3, I think it was. Then it's going to reload. Hopefully I got that right. 0.0.3, yes. Rerun. Oh, no, that's not what I want to do. Rerun. It might not have, oh, you know what? It might not have gone to unpackaged yet, because it may take a while for, since we just created it, for the content delivery networks to pull it up. So a good way to check it out, let's see. Nope. Oh, I forgot the H. Okay, yeah, see, it's not there yet. But if we put in 2, yeah, see, it found 2. So it hasn't propagated to the thing yet. That's a thing you may want to look out for. Yeah, see, it's not there yet. Soon, hopefully. All right, so that's that. So let's go back with the latest. So if you put latest, that'll always draw the latest version of your web component. All right, cool. So let me get a thumbs up if you got this working, or I think I got a question. Cool. You know, it kind of depends, like how much time does it take to update on CDN? It kind of depends on the CDN, because you can imagine they're trying to like duplicate all the different like libraries and packages that are on NPM, which is kind of like all the things that people have published to. So it's not as big as like GitHub, it's just, but it's huge. So it may take a minute. I think the longest maybe has been like 5 minutes, maybe, I think. And again, there's different, you may find another CDN that could be quicker. Let me see. So what I do is I kind of just sometimes just go and just kind of keep hitting refresh on it to see if it will go through every once in a while. And if you have like, if you put in latest, it will tell you the latest one. Yeah, see, it's still saying 0.0.2. But we saw that it is available here. So I get, and again, it was just a little while ago. So give it a few minutes. You know what? We have other applications. So hopefully by the time we reach the other ones, it will work. All right, cool. So rerun this. Oh, wait, did I? Hold on. Oh, there's a 0 there. My delete key on my keyboard doesn't work all the time. So yeah, it's a lot of fun when I'm coding and random things break out of nowhere. It's because a thing wasn't deleted. All right, come on, load. It was just working. Do I need to save this? Shouldn't have to save it. Hold on. Nope, don't do that. It was just working, right? Let me see here. Rerun. My computer could be getting slow. All right, I'm just going to comment out this one. Okay, what is up? My computer is not. Okay, I'm just going to do it manually. Okay, well, there's that. Yeah. Oh, calm down. Stop. Okay. So you can see it works there. All right. Cool. So there we go. All right. Next. Now, remember, this is a CodePen, and you can't like npm install on CodePen. So that's why we had to use the CDN. But we have it. What if we wanted to like actually use it within a place that we could install our package? And so, okay, that's gonna take a minute. Why didn't that load? Okay, but here, so this is Stack Blitz. It's another place where you can. It's almost like a IDE in the cloud. It's pretty cool. Except when it's really thought that would have did that. Okay, neither here nor there. All right, so what you can do is you can take, if you click the 3 lines. Oh, by the way, to show everything, just click both so you can see the editor and the preview. All right. Now, let's say we want to install the package that we just created. So you can go up to here. So this is like the npm I or npm install. So we take this, copy, and then we place that into our dependencies list. Oh, come on. So right here, enter the package name. That's the package name. Hit enter. And so it's installing the dependencies. Yeah, see, it still says 2. And it says I'm not signed in. So if you're signed into GitHub, you'll be able to kind of change all this stuff. And it's going to make me sign into GitHub. Oh, come on. Oh, I got to verify? Seriously? Let's see here. Give me a second. Verify. Verify. Did I get a notification? Notification. Come on with the notification. Did I get a notification? In the wrong pin. See, this is why I like to try to have as much stuff prepared, because there's always something that kind of pops up out of nowhere, right? I didn't get it on this one. Where is? Come on, where's my notification? Come on, notification. I'm doing a workshop here. Where's my notification? Okay, nothing so far. Oh, you're right. I am tired. I flew in like yesterday. Thank you, Abjit, because yeah, I do have to open up my authenticator. Yeah, you're right. I was expecting like a text and okay, never mind. Cool, verifying, do that, cool. Alrighty, hopefully it recognizes that I'm signed in now. So it's installing the dependencies. Okay. All right, so it's installing dependencies, but then we need to import our thing. So what you normally do, just like if you're importing anything from like React or some sort of framework, you just import, and then what it is that you're importing, which is this here, the same thing we were copying before. Okay, so hopefully Oh, actually, I think I have to save it. Okay, a lot of stuff is just spinning here. Okay, I'm going to open up. I thought I had a link here. I gotta remind myself to put a link here. Okay. Let me see something here. See, this is the new stuff I was adding to the actual workshop. So good to know that this can happen. Because it worked previously. Why is it not letting me editor, preview, both? Okay, so well, we're gonna kind of do something similar coming up. So let me see. So it installed it, but for some reason, I'm logged in. I wonder if because it doesn't like that it's in an iframe. Okay, if you click share, you're able to copy the URL. Let's try opening this in a new window. That is not what I wanted to do. Where is, oh, application. Wait, what? No, the editor URL. What is wrong with my keyboard? Why would it? There we go. All right, so here we are. So let's install the dependency again. And I'm logged in, right? Yes, I'm logged in here. So hopefully there won't be any issues. So let's install the dependency here. All right. So that was a lot quicker. Now let's import it. Oh, that's pretty cool. And then there you go. Bam. It's still version 2. So I guess maybe there's CDNs and stuff are taking a while. But yeah, and so there you go. So if you ever need to, if you can install now, like pros and cons. So if you pull from a CDN, you can see kind of like what happened. It takes a minute for it to update. But let's say you're working on a project, and you're always kind of like iterating on it, you're working on it. Having to like npm install every version every time may be kind of like a pain. But at least if you do npm install it, you can actually lock it to a certain version. So if the version changes later on, you don't have to worry about it affecting because you have your one working version that you know will work. Because you can't go back and change the versions, so, as you go and move forward. So if you find a version that you like, then you can just install that or use the CDN to kind of lock it in. And so that way it's always there. All right, hopefully that worked. Yeah, I think it's because maybe I was using the iframe. It didn't like that. That's something to note. Cool. All right, so it worked. You can see right there. So we were able to install it. All right, go back here. Any questions? Anything? That's still the thing. Now I have a question for you. Now, where should our web component go? Do you want to use Angular, React, Vue? Go ahead and cast your votes. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask them as well. And so, all right, we got 1 for React, 2 for React. Like folks are liking React. And then like you'll be able to go to whatever one you want as well. Like later on, you'll be able to check them all out. So no big deal. I actually wrote like I have a blog series over on the Vonage website. And so I go through how to take a web component and put it in whatever framework. Because some frameworks play nice, some don't play as nice. So we'll see. And then there's the website you'll be able to check out to see which frameworks play nicely with web components. All righty, so no questions. All right, so we're gonna go with React. All right, here we go. So check out React. Now, React is one where they don't play so nice with web components. And that is due to the way they handle like data and events. So like how we were saying before, how they handle like properties and attributes. They set them as strings. So you can't have like rich data. Like for our keypad, like how we have like an array for all the keys to put on there, React would put it all as like one string, and so it may show up as like object kind of thing. You'll end up with something stringified like that. That's what it's saying. And the way it handles events, so like the methods that we can call on are from our web component. It does weird stuff with the way it listens because they're using like a synthetic event system. Yeah, it's right there. And so it can't really listen for like DOM events like the regular web does. It's this thing. So there's like a workaround that you do. So that's why they don't get like a perfect score there. And this graphic is coming from a website called customelementseverywhere.com. Really cool website where they're saying they're trying to make sure frameworks and custom elements can be BFFs. And so they run a bunch of different tests on all the different frameworks and libraries to help make it. So like you see Vue, when I looked at it before, it was 100%, but I guess something new may have come down to knock it down a little bit, something with the advanced tests. And so it's cool. You can look at the different tests and see like where things have kind of gone wrong. So it looks like events can listen to a camel case. All right. Let's see. Oh, I guess it can't listen for, I guess you have to have a certain way you set your the name of your event listener, like here, kebab case right there. So you can't do like, camel case, I guess, in the newer version. Well, hopefully they fix that. But at least you know. All right. So then that's Vue, and then you see here React. But now the thing is, there's a newer experimental version of React that has like it passed all the tests and it's handling very well. So there's hope yet that React will one day fully support web components, like just out of the box. Angular does well, even Angular JS. Svelte, I'm a big fan of Svelte. They handle it well. Preact. So I guess if you want to use React, you could probably use Preact, which is kind of close. And so if you want to get, full things there. Polymer, which is now lit, but they still have it there. Hyper App, Skate, Riot.js. So a bunch of them here. Lit does it all the way. Stencil, same thing. Hyper HTML is like one of the first ones I've used to like create web components way back in the day. But yeah, cool. So that's what custom-elements-everywhere does. Alrighty, so now let's take a look at this React component. Okay, hopefully, you know what? Let me just open this in a new window. Oh, see this one, I have a link. I linked to the project here. I gotta do it for the other one. So let's take a look here. So what I did was in Stack Blitz, let's see. I don't know how many people are familiar with Stack Blitz. So let me preface this by showing you an example. Here's Stack Blitz. Now, Stack Blitz is pretty awesome because it lets you like one click create a project with everything that you need. So if you want a TypeScript project, create a blank one. JavaScript, no problem. Node.js. Now this is new, which is pretty cool. It's using these, I forgot what they're called, like some server thing, but it's like it's run in the browser. Cool stuff. If you want like a Vue 3, Angular, and what I did was I clicked to create React. Not TypeScript, but regular JavaScript. That is somewhere. All right, cool. So that's what I did. Let me see, front end. Yeah, here it is, React JavaScript. So you click it and you can create a whole new project. And that's pretty much what I did here. And so now the thing is, like I was saying before, the issue with React is the way that it handles the data, like the properties and attributes, and the way it handles the methods or handling events, right? And so with that being said, so this in the blog post, which I have linked in the slides, I go through all the different ways. So like this blog post here, see, that's funny. This thing is still not loaded. Interesting. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. All right. So in the blog post here, let me open that up. Because I go through like all the different ways. So we talk about the web component. I talk about how it's not really supported. So I have it for like if your React is still using like class components, I talk about how to use that. Then came along like with the functional stuff. So we have function component with hooks. Then the thing is, it changed like in 16.3. Where is it? Am I seriously getting a phone call right now? What? Okay, class components. And I have one. Yeah, those like different ways of doing stuff. Like now here's with hooks. Let's see. And then there's like a change, like 16.3, where something changed or something. So you can check it out. I have all the information there. All right. So back to this. This one. Leave. Oh, you know what? I should have tried to see if the thing. Let's see if 3.0 is up. Nope, still 2.0. Oh, 0.0.2. Huh. I have to look into why that's not updated. Weird. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so this is just like regular boilerplate stuff from React, right? So now, to be able to handle the data, we're going to use the ref, like the use ref hook, right? Which is this here. You see something here. No, wait. Give me a second here. Okay, so yeah, so it was in 16.8 that in React 16.8, there's like a new way in React that could be used to create a reference to your web component. And so that's, I think, when hooks was introduced, I guess. And so whether you're handling state or like side effects, like DOM references or any of that other stuff, there's probably a hook that you can use. And if not, if you're into React, I don't know if you've ever created your own custom hook. So you can do that as well. So, so the hook that we'll be using is the use ref, right? And so previously it was kind of like create ref. So, but now it's use ref. And so, so let's say you want to handle an event, right? So we're getting references to everything. So to our keypad, our dialogue, the contact. Oh, well, yeah. Let's talk about it, and I can show you the other stuff. The contacts, because what's created here is the React Rolodex, and it's using the keypad element almost like a dialer, where you can dial a phone number, you can end the call, and then you can also save in a separate web component the contacts of the person. And so we'll show that. All right, but right now we're using what you call it to get a reference to everything. So here, and then here's all the state stuff for like the contacts, the call status, whether it's like been answered or hung up, and the number to save. So those are the state of this application. Now to get the reference of the things that we need, and again, all that is in here. So we have the keypad itself, the dialogue, the contacts element, and the first name that you type in, right, when you're entering in. So if I go to the return section, so here is our, where's the web? Here we go, VC keypad, right? And remember, we're putting in some properties in there. So we have the action text, call, the cancel text, hung up, and the reference, we need this so that same keypad, that reference keypad, that's referencing what we called it here. So that's because you can't do like a document.query selector or anything because it's like the virtual DOM in React. So you have to use the use ref to get a reference to it in the virtual DOM, basically. And we're initially setting everything to null. Cool. Now, so the same thing. So that's like I said with the keypad. So you'll see keypad, dialogue, context L, all that is similar here. So here's the first name reference again there, matches to the top, the dialogue there, and the context element. All right, cool. Again, that's just another web component. Don't really need to worry about it too much for this one. All right, cool. So now we got the reference, right? Now we need to add the event listeners. So what we're going to do is in the use effect, we're going to wrap all that stuff in the use effect. Where's use effect? Here we go. All right. So now what we're doing is the context element, the current version of it, we're adding an event listener to it. All right. And then we're calling the event contacts loaded. So that's what it's going to listen for. And then we have a function that's going to handle what happens when it happens. All right. Same thing for the contact selected. And then we also have the digits added. Remember, our web component can send out those methods: the digits added, digits sent, and the action ended. All right. So that's how we're attaching it in React to the elements. All right. So we have to use useRef to get a reference. And then we're going to use useEffect to be able to add the event listener to the reference that we just created. So you can kind of see like why React doesn't get the highest score on custom elements everywhere. All right, so now that is handling the events or the methods. All right, now let's talk about how we're going to handle the data. So what we're going to do is, so in the function, let's take a look at the save contact. Should be around, where is oh, come on, hold on, I gotta search for it. Oh, I cannot type. Now, save contact is a, did I highlight? Here we go. So when you save a contact, which was added for that event listener here, where is it? Where's handle contact saved? Give me a second. Handle save contact. That should be attached to a listener somewhere. It's been a minute since I've actually like looked. Oh yeah, here we go. On click. So on the on click, that's the confirm to the save button. That's what's going to happen there. On the actual web component, there's a save contact method, and this is how we're calling that. So this is how we're handling the data. So it goes there, and then we're checking to see if it's valid. If it is valid, then we're going to call the method save contact that's on the contacts element, which we created a reference for earlier. And then we're passing in the name and the phone number. Now we have to do it this way because again, you can't just set it on the actual web component because React will just make it a string and you won't be able to do anything with it inside your web components, because unless I guess you know that could happen and then like do an edge case for that, but that's just not really on you. That you shouldn't have to worry about that. So so that's that. So that's how we're passing in the data, right? Cool. Now, so that's kind of like little string stuff. But now if we want to pass in like rich data, so like arrays or objects and stuff, we can look at the contact prop. Let's see. So like if we wanted to contact property, what is it called? Contact prop. Why is that not pulling anything up? You can take a look at the blog post. For some reason, it's not. I might have changed something since then. Neither there. All right, cool. But you could. Oh, let me see. Oh wait, no. That's right. No, that's just an example. If you wanted to, you could set like the same way we have the like the method here. You can do the same thing for like properties. And so you could set like contacts element dot current dot whatever the property is, and then set it to like an array or an object. So that's what that is. Yeah, I didn't actually put that in here. That's right. All right, it's just like an example. All right, cool. So that is that. Now let's make this thing work, right? So the same thing before. Let's install the elements. Let's install our web components. Right here. And again, this could be whatever you created. So we're installing it. Installing. Oh, see, now it says 3. Huh. All right, very nice. So now we just need to import it. So we're going to, again, you could just use mine if you haven't used it. If you want to follow along, so you just import the same thing. I got to put quotes around it. And then save. And there you go. And you see, we have light green text. Yay. So, you know, if you found that cool, let me get some thumbs ups. Thumbs ups. And how's everything going so far? Everything is coming all right, okay? Oh, you have a question? Real quick, what was the link to the JS IDE? Oh, you mean, that was a Stack Blitz one also. So I will, how would I get it? You know what? Let me put it in the, I'll put it in the chat room. Yeah. So let me go back. Yeah, this one here. This is the one, I hope this is the one you're referring to. So let me put this in the Zoom chat. I'll add it to the actual slide later. Where's Zoom? Here we go. All righty. Okay, so here we are with the React. Cool. So let me get it so that will work. Here you go. All right, so here it is. Very nice with the light green letters that we know it's version 3. And so let's test it out. So let's dial a phone number because this is a totally real phone number. Call. So it says call in progress. So it's doing what it does. And then we can hang up. And now what do we, so this is where the context kind of comes in. So once we hit that call ended, that action ended. So right here, handle action ended. Because remember, that's fired off when the cancel text has been selected. So right here, let's look up that. So you can see right here, we're saying the call status, the call has ended. And then we're looking to see if the caller, if the number has been in there already. Yes, we're looking for it. If it has been found, the number already exists in there. Otherwise, we're going to do the show modal. By the way, another cool one, dialogue, the element, you get this out of the box, like a dialogue is super cool. And you just call show modal and it will pop it up. You don't have to worry about any of that other stuff. It's kind of amazing. All right, and so let's say this was Alice's phone number. And we can confirm it. And there we go, Alice with the phone number. We can edit it. And so all of this is within the web component for the contacts. And so you can edit it. So that's another thing. Save that. You can delete it. And then I should have deleted because I should have had it to show you the next part. So call. Oh, wait, what? Oh, I think there's a bug. Oh, see this here. All right. All right, call. Cool. Oh, wait, what happened here? Oh, that's weird. Yeah, something. Huh. Just saw it work. Huh. I'll look into that. I think maybe Stack Bliss isn't like. Huh, that is super weird. Let me see here. Huh. I'm gonna have to research why that's happening. But it was working before. I'm not sure what happened there. All right. But yeah, so maybe something with it's like a caching thing or something. Not sure. All right. So there's that. Cool. Let me get back to my dashboard here. All right. Cool. Cool. All right. Let's keep moving. Oh, we're coming up close on time. Oh yeah. Okay. So there's that. Cool. Awesome. You can learn more about it. I have the blog post. You can check it out. I also link to other resources in the blog post so you can find out more if you so choose. I have it for view as well. So now, another question. Are web components becoming more awesome? How are you feeling? How are you feeling right now? You digging it? You liking it? Liking what you're seeing? Want to learn more at some point? Very nice. Very nice. Glad to see you all there. Cool. Very nice. All right. Next. So now we have our web component. It looks cool. Everything is great. Wonderful. Now, what if we wanted to style it? What if we wanted to make it look like our own, look like a part of our own application? Because it'd be kind of sad to have this really awesome web component, but it looks so out of place in the context of the whole application, right? So now there's a couple of ways, options that you have there. There's probably more, but these are the ones I'm going to cover. The CSS Custom Properties, which you kind of saw before with the var and the 2 dashes. And there's also the part selector, which is pretty cool as well. So let's take a quick look at the CSS Custom Properties. Like I said, we mentioned before, I have a link to MDN so you can read more about it. But for simplicity, let's say you have a button. You can set the background of the button to be anything that you want. So you call your variable in your root, you set it to be like blue. And so anywhere you see that same variable hyphen hyphen my element hyphen button hyphen color, that will replace with the blue. But let's say you didn't set it, well, there's a default, so it'll be red. Okay, so it's pretty cool. But now you can kind of see that, well, what if I wanted to set the text color? Well, then you would need a variable for that. Well, if I wanted to set the rounding of the edges of the button, well, you'd have to set a variable for that. So you can see you're almost like limiting what can be changed about your component to whatever you can think about to be changed, right? I mean, that could be good whether you want to like set constraints and things. But let's say you want a person to be able to stylize your component however they want it to, right? And that is where part comes in. And I wrote a blog post on it because I think it's pretty cool. And there's the MDN as well. So now, same situation, you have your button, but now, so this isn't like your web component. So now you're naming the button in your web component, the part button, because that makes sense. That's the button, right? And so that's button. Now, what's cool is, so let's say this was in custom -element web component. To actually change the button, to stylize it, you just do the custom element, the 2 colons, part, and the name of the part, button. And then you can change whatever you want inside to style it. So let's take a look at some examples. But before that, so I created some web components for our client SDK because I found having to keep listening for different events and things of that nature, kind of like a lot, you know, especially if you're building up these things a lot. So I took our client SDK and the conversation API, and I kind of baked them into different components. So each component knows what it needs to listen for and send any events that it needs to let the outer application know something happened. And so, for example, like this is like to create a chat app, right? So if you want to have the messages, you just put VC messages and then this will pop up. And that will know to listen for new messages and from who and how to format them and do all those things to place it into that section. The members, it handles when they join and leave. And then we also have the input where you actually type in the message and hit send. And then there's an actual, there's another indicator, there's a typing indicator, another component where it shows, like it listens for the event when somebody's typing to display it. So this way, if you want to have the VC members on the other side, well, you just move the element in your HTML to the other side of VC messages, and there it is. You don't have to worry about anything else. And then you don't have to worry about, all you have to do is just get the references and send them the information for the conversation ID, and it'll take the conversation ID and do whatever else it needs to do. You don't have to worry about that. You just pass in the conversation ID, and you're good to go. All right, so that's the ending. You can listen for any events if you want to on your application. But out of the box, you have a chat app. Pretty cool. All righty. So now I want to be able to stylize the text chat for a person's however they want to fit it into their application, right? Because I mean, having a cool like default style is all well and good, but to make it really feel like cohesive and a part of the application, stylizing it would be a good idea, I believe, right? And so let's take a look at some of the elements and how you can stylize them. So here's that same VC text input, right? So here, notice I have the placeholder text because I can just set it. If you see in the HTML, see I set placeholder to be placeholder text. That's what's showing up there. Now, This input is called input. And the button, guess what? It's called button. So here you're able to, this thing, yeah, I don't think it's going to let me. Okay, hold on. Let's see here. So let me just delete that and we get rid of the comments. And you see right there how it's changed so much. So you can see the input. If I type in something, hello world, see now that's red. Hello word, sure. So and then we have the border blue with the dots and stuff. So you can make it look however you want basically, and that change the send button as well. So you can play around with that. So it's basically just CSS from that point on, just being able to pick it. And so yeah, so that's there, cool. And then for the members section, let me uncomment this. And you can see it drastically changed as well. Now, notice arts can't do everything because to do like the nth child of something, from so far from this workshop, I have not found a way or have seen a way. And I've asked people and no one knows how to be able to select like the nth child of something. So for that, I had to use a CSS property or a custom variable or CSS variable or a custom property, CSS custom property to do that. So hopefully in the future, maybe they'll have something, but for right now, you can always use, there is a solution. You can always use CSS variables. All right, so that's that one. Cool. Now here's the keypad that we were working with before. So let's see what we can accomplish with that. So see right here, so we have, you can, you want to just have certain numbers or whatever to be entered in. And then this one is pretty cool. Oh, well, what if you wanted to have like a control pad and like a little pew button, right? So you can use it as like a controller. So there's all sorts of things you can do with it. And because it's just like CSS, which is kind of amazing. So you saw how it went from the square keys, like a regular, to what was just there with the, all through just CSS. So I think that's pretty cool. All right, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, not too bad. We started a little bit late, and look, yeah, nice. So we on time. So thanks for hanging out. Hopefully this was cool. So here's links to the blog series. You can check it out. My website. Again, I make random projects, and I post it there sometimes. You can check out our APIs at developer.vonage.com. And for hanging out, we're giving y'all a 10 euro Vonage coupon code. And so to see it, you just click show me the code, and it'll show you the code, and you can redeem it at this link here. All right, with the dashboard.nextmo.com/coupons. And yeah, I think that's it. Wow, that went pretty quickly. So thank you. Let me get some thumbs up if you thought it was cool. Are you excited about web components now? Do you think it's awesome? Give me some thumbs up.
I'm very excited.
Thing. Nice. Hey, when Aris is excited, we all should be excited. So I'm happy about that.
More than excited. And this time I think we didn't have any problems.
Yes, thank goodness. So yes, so we I've learned from the last one, you know.
Yeah. You always need a second chance.
Yeah, because you never know. You never really know how something is going to work until you actually like have other people use it at like the same time.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? And so to create something where it's like, hey, everybody, jump at this thing and make it work. And so yeah, but there we go. Any other questions or anything anybody have? Like I said, you can always hit me up and stuff. So
if anybody wants to talk, this is the time. So
yeah, and then if you're gonna be at CityJS, swing by the booth and we could talk about stuff. So let me know.
And if you want to buy tickets and be with Dwane, again, we have a few left, and yeah, it's gonna be really good.
It's gonna be a good time. I'm looking forward to the theater. It looks super awesome. Like looks pretty amazing.
I was in today. It was amazing.
Nice.
Not just the theater, but also the area where We will be having the sponsors and
the booths and
think
stuff.
you-
Yeah, it looks super cool.
I might get you to do a DJ set.
Ooh, no, we don't want that. No, we don't. No, we don't want. We don't want to clear out the venue. No, we're not gonna do that. No. Maybe when it's time for people to leave and you're trying to kick them out, then I'll play some music to run everybody out.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, everyone. Hope you are staying safe. We almost made it through the COVID storm. We're getting back together. So thank you, Dwane, for this amazing workshop.
Oh no, thank you everybody here. Thank you. You let me talk about whatever. So I appreciate you for letting me talk about it, and I really enjoy it. So thank you all. Thank you, Isabel.
Thank you, Isabel.
Yeah.
Have
I think you were the one asking about the WordPress. So yeah, let me know if you get it working on WordPress. That'd be super cool to see. If you need any help or anything, feel free to reach out.
Okay, with that note, I'm gonna close down the session. And if you need any more, if you need to ask the Vonat team or Dwane any questions, feel free to tweet. This is gonna be going to our YouTube library. Feel free to subscribe to CityJS library in YouTube, and it's also available on Twitter. If you follow us on Twitter, you will find the session. Thanks, Dwane, and yeah.
And I'm also going to allow. Oh, sorry. I'm also allowing the controls on it, and it's like right now. So if you like refresh, you should be able to see the arrows, and you'll be able to go back and forth on the slides and stuff. So if you want to go back and check it out, you can. So it's there for you.
Amazing.
Same
Thank you
password.
very much.